right, we're here with another episode of DSA's Life by Design. We're joined by the talented designer, Noel Gatts. I have my brilliant co-host, Natalie Papier, joining as well. Natalie, great to see you.
You too.
All right,
Hi.
Noel, welcome.
Hi, Noel.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Yeah, we're super pumped to have you on, except I'm outnumbered right now. I've got two great designers in me. What am I going to do?
You'll be fine. You're
I'll
holding your own.
I'll figure it out. That's what I always do. First of all, congratulations on everything happening right now. I want to start we always kind of start from the beginning with everyone we talk to. And that beginning is your beginning. And that is, when did you love design? When did you realize this was going to be your career?
It was a career change for me. So I was dedicated for many years to the theater. I was doing musical theater. I always loved design. It's a huge part of theater. I will say that, I mean, you're surrounded by sets and costumes and it's all very imperative to creating a character. So I always loved it, but it was really when I was pregnant with my third child and I just could not do the acting life anymore. It wasn't going to be for me. If I wanted to see my family and my husband and maybe have dinners together sometimes, it wasn't going to be for me. And I thought, what can I do? And when we bought our house, we were thrown into designing, right? I was thrown into it. We had to redo everything. So that's really when I realized I really like this, even when it's a job, even when it's something I'm doing that I have deadlines and I have things I have to do. So I just started dabbling in it, gained experience, and made that career change when my daughter was entering the year before kindergarten, so preschool. And people were asking me for help. I started grassroots, like charging them nothing to like get a portfolio and learn, and networking with other great designers and just trying to learn what I needed to do. So it was a career change for me, and I was older. So, it was, I didn't go to school. I didn't have the formal training, but I learned on my feet and learned from a lot of great experts and was always trying to learn. So gathering, information and continued education and getting some credentials that way.
Noel, like when you were talking about when you started and your daughter going right in before kindergarten, that's my exact same story, self-taught. Yes. And, it felt like you're getting into the industry a little bit later without this expertise to back it up. So you're learning as you go, right?
Right. And you learn a lot. I mean, now that I have an intern working with me, I see that there's so much you do learn, of course, in design school. And there's gaps that I have that I'm sure we'll talk about later, what I'm learning and what I'm being provided by DSA, but they're not learning and they can't learn that stuff, the client communications. And I mean, they try, but you can't really learn all that stuff until you're on your feet. Like, how do you deal with those personal needs of a client and the emotions? And guys, we're therapists. I mean, right?
100%. I mean, do you feel like your background in acting has been helpful for you moving forward, just with this like client interaction and
sure.
And
I also think a lot of actors do go into this. I've noticed a lot of my friends who have to pivot, go into real estate or interior design. It's hugely helpful, especially because, at least for me as a brand, we're so character driven, by what we want to provide our client has to be based on their character and based on their interests. So learning how to communicate is a huge thing. So that was obviously helpful, but even just the visual part of it, learning what creates a character's environment, what helps the person be the person they want to be in the environment that they should have. Those things are really helpful, I think, developing a character, developing a design.
Although you won't be acting, you are going to be on TV, which is really cool. You have your HGTV show. That's freaking awesome. So I want to talk to you all about that. Yeah. How did that come about? Where did it start? What is it? The whole process.
It's such a big question, right? And I have so much to say about it. So I'm going to try to be like not rambling on about it for an hour. So let me try. Okay. So actually my first dabble with HGTV was somebody found my profile somewhere. And I think they must've seen I did theater or something before, and they called me in to do a different show completely. And we did the sizzle reel and everything. And then that show didn't go forward anywhere. It just didn't happen. And then a year later, my design assistant, her sister-in-law, saw an ad that was like, we're looking for designers in this area for a major network TV show. And I happened to have sort of things already created from my previous like audition. And so I sent it very quickly, and within a day was like on the roll to being selected for this show. And the way that worked is they wanted to find a partner for somebody. So to create a show where there was a designer and a home inspector together. And so we met up and hit it off and just had this great energy and chemistry right away. And everything moved very quickly from there. So it was essentially a casting call the second time around, unrelated to that first one. But again, I think the acting experience certainly helps when I'm, pretty quick on my feet, pretty good with interviewing and like talking back and forth and expressing myself. So it moved so quickly from there. Actually, it's kind of crazy because usually you have to do a whole sizzle reel, sort of like a produced, concept for the networks and everyone, or the production companies to see, and then to send to the network. But it was during the thick of COVID. So we did a Zoom interview, the two of us. I think they edited it to 5 minutes, and it was like a 15-minute interview. They edited it down. Edited is hard to say, P.S. And we got picked up for a pilot on that Zoom interview. It was unreal. We were like, what? And then it just really went from there. And we finished our first season. It aired in January, which was like, we just finished wrapping because there were so many delays with COVID. I mean, these are real things. Everything was pretty authentic. So it's like real time delays, and it was crazy, but it was a lot of kismet, a lot of luck, and being prepared and ready for the opportunity. You know how they say, be ready when opportunity knocks. And I had my portfolio and I had my, interview stuff ready. So it was very helpful.
That is so cool. Congratulations. I mean, that's huge for a lot of people. I think that's like a big dream to have an opportunity like that come
totally
live.
And what's interesting though, is although it is a total dream and I love it, it's made for me, I can see how it's not made for everybody. Do you know what I mean? If you're a high-end luxury designer, which I never was, that wasn't really my thing. It was more to be sort of in between, an accessible, I call it an affordable or an attainable luxury designer. I was more of a high-low, every man's designer, but I could see how it wouldn't work for everyone because you have to give up a lot. I have my own business. I had to give up a lot of work to do it. The pay isn't huge right away. That's a misconception. You're paying your dues and you're doing a lot of work for free. And, but I love it. I love working with the clients. I love the authenticity of it. I think we made it very authentic. We're teaching people, we're capturing a lot of the authenticity of it, which is great.
I mean, it's impressive. And I know a lot has changed and evolved for you over these years since you began, but do you feel like things have evolved and changed in the design world along with you?
I do. I don't know how you guys feel, but I luckily jumped into the design world already very interested in leveraging technology. And I think the technology changes are the biggest changes. I think there was a way everything used to have to be done, from what I understand. You had your CAD drawings and you have all this and the other, and that was digital, but the presentations were all very much, linear, like, you're going there and you're handing things over. And now we do both. So that's the biggest change I'm seeing, is you want to have a digital element to your presentations and to design in general that people can click on and look at. And I think with the access that they have to inspiration and Pinterest and all these things, you have to be cool with that and not freaked out by it. I think, now that everyone has access to it, learn how to manage people's expectations with design and also leverage that technology. So you're not just afraid of it and you're not feeling like it's a bad thing, but that you can use it to help guide your clients.
Do the clients react differently knowing you're on TV, because there's kind of that coolness factor where like, oh yeah, Noel, she has this TV show?
maybe one or two, and they're just so awesome about it. I think it just makes it a little easier for me, to be honest, because they're like, they kind of already know what to expect, right? But honestly, a lot of people who watch the show are probably not my typical client, right? So, I mean, a lot of people who are watching the show are really looking for some DIY, maybe not looking to hire a designer. You know what I mean? They just want to get that inspiration from the show. So I'm finding that not everybody's really watched the show. So no, but they're just great about it. I mean, when they do know, they kind of know the personality they're getting already, which is obviously a big part of me. So yeah, I guess I'd say they're treating me with a little bit of extra like trust, right? They already kind of know where I'm coming from.
I've heard a little bit about your philanthropy, and I want to talk about what that is and why that's important to you.
I love that. Listen, right now my philanthropy is low budget, but it is a percentage of what I make. It's very important to me to give back to the community. But it's like embarrassingly bad right now because, you know, the money's not rolling in, but it is important to me. I think philanthropy really comes back to community and what you're building with your community. It doesn't have to be just close by. I mean, if you're into environmental causes, great, I am. But largely my philanthropy is more like social justice based and with peaceful, oh gosh, I don't know how to say this one. Guys, I'm very passionate about gun sense laws. And I know that's not a very popular thing, but so that's something I give back to, keeping our children like safe and confident. So, you know, but in a respectful and legal way. So that's something I'm passionate about, but definitely giving back to the community, mental health issues for young people. I'm very, very, very passionate about young people's issues, children, making them feel safe, secure. Those are things I care a lot about. So I'm giving little bits of money to some more local community charities too. So some that are very near and dear to my heart. There's one called Hunter's World. It's in Jersey City. We unfortunately lost a young man, my friend's son. He was our only son, and she started this charity, and it's just phenomenal. It's a mentorship program for teens. So I give to that, as well as some of the national Everytown for Gun Sense, Feeding America, things that are not huge amounts of money, but it's important to me to constantly take some of that money and give it back to the community.
And that's what's important for people to know, is that you can be involved and you can give back in the way that's attainable to you.
Yes. And actually, it's great, even just networking things you can do in your community. If you're a designer, I'm sure you have access to, you know, extra materials or things that you can give, you know, you get extra wallpaper. Maybe you can go do a wall in like the homeless shelter or, you know, the children's center. People are really open to that if you can reach out and find those opportunities. I did a theater recently that does a lot for young people, and I just donated my time to help design that and gather materials and make sure everything's looking good. So there's easy ways to sort of barter that too. So you don't have to pour tons of money into it. You could just give your time.
When you decide to transition careers and you start getting into design, when did you realize you had a business?
That's a good question. I remember, I think I got my LLC almost before I realized I had a business, just because I felt like I'm a big person. I'm big into preparation. So I wanted to be prepared. But I think it was when I had all the referrals rolling in, right? And I had to schedule my time, when I realized that, oh, you know, this isn't just something I can take on everything that's coming at me. I have to actually schedule this time. I can raise my prices. That was a big one. When do you raise prices, right? And that's when I realized I had work regularly rolling in. Now, for the first couple of years, I'd say I had heavy seasons, right? You know, times when everyone's renovating, you know, the springtime, right before Christmas or holidays, they're trying to cram things in. But then I started to see a really steady stream. So yeah, once I had to schedule that time and I could raise prices, I realized, you know, this is something that I'm capable of doing and managing and taking on more and more projects and having more confidence in myself. And I'm, you know, really got something here.
I love that. It's such an organic way to start. And then as you continue, you figure out the things that are really important for your business to maintain. And I feel like branding is such a big part of that. Do you have any words of advice to young designers on branding and what that might, some tips and tricks for them to start?
Yes, I do. I think as much as we like to throw around the word authenticity, it's important. So if you can do the things that you're drawn to doing, but also give yourself the grace of understanding that you can change your mind. I think one of the best pieces of advice on branding I ever got was that it's okay if you learn that you don't want to be that anymore. So go down a path that seems right for you, offer the services you provide, try to find, what makes you special and unique and authentic. And if that changes and you decide my logo doesn't make sense anymore, my color scheme doesn't make sense anymore, don't be afraid to change it. I think that's great advice. And don't feel like you have to find a niche. I mean, everyone talks about these niche markets and things. I don't think you should force yourself into that. I think you should just find out who you are and who you like to work with along the way, and it'll become clear, where your place is in it. But the best thing you can do is be true to yourself and your desires. Like, there are people in my monetary bracket who might want to be luxury designers. And they know they want to work with these really high-end, beautiful, bespoke items. And that's fantastic. Lean into that. You don't have to be rich to be that person. You can do that. I knew from the beginning that was not my niche. So, luckily that has stayed with me. But that being said, what if I come across a great opportunity with somebody who's also very down to earth, but wants some bespoke items? I'm not going to say no to that. That's still on brand for me, because it's the person and the personality and the way they live that is more my brand. And the fact that I have such a strong personality is going to draw people to this kind of a brand. You know what I mean? And I think that's important. Be you. If you're a very formal person, be that. You don't have to be bubbly and enthusiastic and like an HGTV host to have a great brand. You just need to know what you like, what you are, and what you have to provide.
That really just resonates with me so hard, because it really is such an evolution. Design is an evolution. Our lives are constantly changing and shifting, and it's okay. It's okay to change. It's okay to change your mind and evolve with your life changes.
And to be honest about that, I've done that several times. And I love the word evolve, because you probably all know, as you're raising prices, as things are changing, people sometimes don't understand that, or they're wondering why, or they want a deal. And you just have to say, my business has evolved. This is what it is. This is what I provide more. I am more capable. I'm more confident. Like, this is the evolution of business. And I can't just go back to what it was before, because that made you comfortable,
Right.
And yeah, absolutely. Don't be scared to evolve, please. We're allowed to.
I want to talk to you about the DSA, because just doing this series, and I say this every single interview we do, I'm just blown away by the work and the relationship that the DSA has with all of its organization members and everything it's able to provide, and the rewarding feeling that you hear people describe that they get in working with the organization. What is that rewarding feeling for you? What does it mean to you to have a connection to the DSA?
I mean, as a fairly new member, I was so impressed with the honor that they gave my work and my profession, despite the fact that I did not have formal training and do all these exceedingly exciting things, beforehand. It was, and this is before they knew I was on a TV show or anything like that. It was just the feeling of welcome and support, and the awareness that what I was doing was providing a value in the industry, and that they were happy to have me be a part of their group, and knowing that if you're in a business and it's successful and you're providing a great service, that's valuable. And that as long as you're pursuing knowledge and growth, you're in the right place. And I feel like DSA has offered that without question from the beginning, without trying to require something of me beyond what I already provide. And I think that's a wonderful thing as a designer, to have that kind of support.
I think it's as a self-taught designer, there are some insecurities that come into that, and it takes a while to try and overcome that. So I feel like the DSA has been a really great, just organization, but you also did get some credentialing through RIDQC, correct?
I'm on my way to get that.
Oh, got
I
it.
just signed up for that program, so I'm going to take the test. But like, this is what's so great about it. I was searching and searching for how do I, give myself the security, because my clients haven't needed it. I haven't found that my clients are requiring anything of me beyond what I'm already providing. But for my own feeling of accepting myself almost into the industry, because I have so much respect for it and for the, difficult and intricate things you have to learn, I want to learn. So I was introduced to this program as a way for me to fill the gaps of the things that I didn't get from a formal education. And then by taking this test, I'll know, I've reached that. I've filled those gaps. I'm on the playing field with the other guys. And that, that's just a great thing to provide for someone like me and someone like you, perhaps, where we've done a lot of the work and we know a lot, but we need that credential that says you've earned this,
When you were first starting out and you didn't have obviously the formal training or degrees that you could show, was there ever kind of an insecurity where a client would be like, oh, show me that degree or show me that training? And you'd be like, I don't really have it. I'm kind of self-taught.
Yeah. No, because I was upfront every single time. I think I was almost too shy to charge what I was even worth for my hours. And I was very clear from the beginning that I was a student, in a grassroots effort here. So I think that helps with that. If you're, you're looking for clients who understand that and you're being very honest and open about it. I hadn't run into that. And I still don't, which is interesting, but I guess maybe I've already established some ground, but it hasn't been an issue for me in the way that I started designing, which was very, one room at a time, decorating, and then getting into the higher level stuff. And just because I was always upfront about it with them, when it was necessary, but most of the time it was never asked, They wanted to see my work, right? They want to see your portfolio. I have a website, which obviously you have to have a website. You have to have your stuff out there. Instagram's obviously very helpful. Things, anywhere that has visuals of your work is helpful.
Yeah, there's a lot to learn and manage and figure out what works for you. Have you had any really significant learning experiences?
Yes. Okay. I think we've all had challenging clients. I've been so fortunate. I feel like 90% of my clients are just wonderful, and any little annoying issues that I might whine about in my private time are just because I'm whining. It's like, they're great. And they have every right to have questions and annoy me sometimes, because it's going to annoy me sometimes. But I've had a couple experiences that were very eye-opening about sometimes, no matter how buttoned up you are and how much you care and how much you provide, you're going to run into difficulties and conflict. And how you manage that is so important. It was such a learning experience for me to know my worth and my value, and to be able to diplomatically, if possible, get out of a bad situation. I think that's very important for designers to learn, because we are people pleasers in general, and we want our work out there, and we've invested so much time and energy, but sometimes you can't overcome that. So I think that was a huge learning experience for me. It was actually only one time that happened to me, but where I learned sort of a this isn't me, this is them situation, like in many other ways I learned with just slightly difficult clients what I needed to do better. And that is true. And that is helpful. But then there's sometimes you have to learn, you can't fix this, have a good contract that's clear about what is expected of you, and know when to walk away from something that's not right. And in a diplomatic and professional way as much as you can. So that the biggest learning experience were definitely those kind of experiences, which I only had one really bad one, but it was helpful.
Where does the process begin for you? So client X meets you and they're like, hey, I want you to do design for me.
Yeah.
What happens next?
Yeah. So I always start with a questionnaire. I have a great questionnaire that I love. And because I leverage technology, it's digital, so they can upload inspiration pics and things like that. It is so helpful to me. I mean, of course, we've chatted, talking in person, seeing how they live right now for full service. I'm going to their space and seeing what's going on right now. But the questionnaire is fantastic because it keeps it all in one spot, answers a lot of questions, gives them, when they give me these inspiration photos, I sometimes have to decipher, what do they like about all these things? Like, how do these things go together? That's very helpful. And then, you know, we do our measurements and our conversations and our photographs, and we combine all those things. We put together a presentation, and we bring it to them. And then usually, you know, we have rooms for revision, but people seem really to be getting a lot of what they want with this questionnaire, filling it out, giving me all that great intel and figuring out how they live. And it's just so important to go deep in the beginning, so you know what their expectations are. And then sometimes the communication might not be perfect and you might not get it right that first time, but then you're really close because you've known what you've misinterpreted, and you moved on from there. But we are I'm involved in everything right now. I do have assistants, but we are very tuned into the client and the client needs, and a lot of care and warmth, I think, is something we bring right away.
You certainly are. I consider you a very high achiever.
Oh,
for having, you know, gotten this far, self-taught, a new HGTV show. You're a wife and you're a mom of 3 kids.
yes.
So you feel like all this hands-on life experience is helping you move forward with your professional career?
For sure. For sure. I think the timing all happened to work out really well. There were a lot of moments when I wasn't so sure, you know. It's so interesting that you say that I'm a high achiever. I love it and I'll take it. But I've sort of always been the like middle ground girl. Like, I always look for balance in everything. And it just seems like that search for balance for me has led me here, where there's some really cool things happening. Does that make sense? The search for balance is what's brought me to a place where I can do something kind of extraordinary. And it's because I've always sort of sought a way to take stock of where I am, what's important, I do like to know what I'm looking forward to in the future, but not to have goals that I must achieve or something that, you know, I'm just not that kind of person. I tend to go with the flow a little bit. I think it's put me where I am today, but I certainly was never the highest achieving. It's so interesting. I really wasn't. I was always sort of like the team player, the middle ground. So for me, I certainly am grateful for where I am. And I think it has turned into sort of something that feels like high achievement, but was definitely very sort of slow and steady wins the race getting there. Do you know what I mean?
Where does this go next for you? Where do you envision the business, your personal brand, 5, 10, 15 years down the road?
I would love to build a personal brand that is still accessible. So something, you know, the dream is one day I would love to have some kind of product lines, creative, functional product lines that are also accessible, sustainable, earth-friendly, things that make people's lives easier, but also just more enjoyable. So that's a dream of mine, is that sort of thing. But in the meantime, to just really bring people comfort, balance, and delight. These are things I talk about a lot, balance and delight, into their homes, where they feel like they are living in a way that is inspiring them, comforting them. So the brand, I hope the business grows enough that I can hire some more people, that I can be creative director and still have my hand in everything, because it's going to be very important to me to do that, but to have other people, you know, helping spread the love, working for me. And it looks like there'll be more of us on TV. Can't say officially, but it looks like we'll be on TV for a while. So that's a great thing too. It's really great for me. It's this perfect mix of my worlds, and I love it. And I hope that that goes somewhere, and that I can do the philanthropy I want to do in the future. The goal is to get big enough where I can actually give substantial amounts back and inspire other people, I think, too, to invest in their communities. Because I say this a lot, but like, what good is your big old house in your gated community if you can't go out and enjoy living and being with the people around you? You know, you want to live like that? I don't. I want my community to be built up and then also have a great house that I love, you know?
I love that you talk about building your business and how you have to come to that point where if you want to continue to grow, you need help in some areas. And that is sometimes comes with employees or partnerships where you can't do it all yourself.
Yeah.
And social media is such a big part of our world right now. Do you do your own social media or do you have somebody managing that for you?
Recently, I hired someone to help me. But it was such a strange situation because of the show, I had to do a personal account as well, because things that are associated with the show, I can't necessarily associate with Beam and Bloom, which is my business, and vice versa. So there's things I can do as Noel Gatts for Beam and Bloom that I can't do for the show. So I did hire someone to help me because that was 2 accounts and it was like kind of very different accounts. And I learned a lot, but I will say this, I'm back to doing it by myself because my authentic voice just doesn't come through as much with that kind of help. However, on the business side, on Beam and Bloom, I could see if the brand starts to take off in sort of a different direction than my own personal designer brand, it would be helpful to have somebody manage that, because just making sure you have all the content and all the photos, and it's great to have help with that. But I think the most important thing, again, is authenticity and some sort of regular posting. You know, like I personally am just starting to try to post 3 times a week on my business and lots of stories, and then try to post almost every day on my personal site. So it is a lot. And it's, again, the future of our industry is people look to Instagram, they look to Facebook, or they look to Pinterest first. So it's important to have that. And right now I'm back to doing it on my own. We'll see how long that lasts.
It feels like any designer we have on this show is having significant remodeling done and design work done with their own properties. It's like almost like this rite of passage. Natalie was one. She has like 1 million pictures. Is this a rite of passage for you guys? Like if you're in the design business, do you have to literally redo your whole house?
The irony is usually you're the last one to redo your house. Am I right? I mean, I feel like usually it's like everyone else gets the attention and the time and the energy. And then you're like, oh, but look at my house. I need to do something here. At least that's how I felt. I felt like all my time and energy, I almost didn't even want to design my own house because I was getting so fulfilled doing everyone else's. But yeah, I think it's true. You see the prep, you know, you don't want people to think you don't know what you're doing. You gotta have and sometimes you realize you're neglecting yourself. And that's where I was doing all the stuff with the show and realizing I'd lived here for 7 years. We did gut renovations when we first moved in, but a lot of decisions we had to make without a designer's eye. You know, we had to like just paint the walls first and then get the furniture in. So now we're in a place where we're being a little more thoughtful as we naturally have to update anyway. Like it's time to paint the walls. So let's be more thoughtful. Let's put together, you know, our whole plan. So I guess it is a rite of passage. Eventually you've got to step up your game and give yourself some of that love and attention that you give all your clients all the time.
I feel like it was kind of backwards for me because we moved into the house right during COVID and we moved states away. So I kind of was in that place where I had a lot of time on my hands in the beginning.
And the blank canvas.
And the blank canvas just calls for you. But
it looks beautiful.
Thank you.
Loving it.
As you know, like you have your family and you're in your home and you're doing these renovations and then you're working with clients who are going through something similar. How do you feel like it helps you to have that experience for yourself, like in helping your clients through that?
It helps a ton because, as you know, everyone starts off very excited and that's great. And you want that. And then things start to get pickly, you know, like I just try to always be honest and upfront with them. You're going to hit a point where you're very frustrated, and we'll be here to try to help you understand that this is temporary. You're going to get through it. If you're living there, that's going to amp it up. So I know many clients choose not to live there during renovations, which is a great choice for them. I didn't have that luxury. I had no kitchen and no bathrooms. It was like in my house with one toilet and, you know, like a kitchen in my dining room. And my kids were bathing outside. I'm not kidding. And I had a little baby pool and like soap and so I've been there. I can tell them it's going to be a challenge if you want to live there. You'll get through a certain hump. And once you start seeing everything be cleaned up and put together, you're going to feel more relaxed about it. It's going to be worth it in the end.